Most people assume you write a book after you figure life out. I wrote 2 books before I had any idea where my life was going. Looking back now, I realized those 2 books weren't the finish line. They were just the beginning. I am Victor C. Samuel, and today I want to tell you the story behind the 2 books I wrote, why I felt compelled to write them, and what they taught me long before I thought about moving to Taiwan, building Velion, and documenting my life here on YouTube. Why did I start writing? It's simple. To challenge myself. You see, before I moved to the United States, I used to live in Nigeria, and we spoke English, but our English apparently is very different from the American English. And because of this, I was enrolled in ESOL. I remember when I first moved here, I was teased a lot of the way I spoke because of my accent. And after years of being challenged to broaden the way I talk, the way I listen to English, I remember actually when I first came here, and it was my last grade of 8th grade, and I would often remember the teacher saying, especially in my ESL class, watch the mouth, the way people talk. And this allowed me to be able to understand and grasp language a lot faster. I could understand other people, but the problem there was not many people could understand me. So I took it upon myself to I started watching a lot of American music and listening to the tonation of words and how it is spoken. Back then, I never imagined that I would write 2 books in the same language people once laughed at me for speaking. And this inspired me to not only understand the language, listen to the language, but it started helping me better the way I talk to people, the way I sounded to people. And I could emphasize certain words. I still have struggles today. Sometimes, like in the heat of the moment, thicker than it sounds right now. To me, it was a journey. I started writing this because I challenged myself, mainly because I thought, one, I could prove to myself that not only do I understand the language, but I could also write in the language. And this was the motivating factor for me. That was the beginning of the catalyst into what I was writing. To me, writing felt necessary because I wanted to see my vision come to life. I think when I started writing, it wasn't my full intention to truly to become an author or anything of that nature. I think for me, it was a way to document my work, my creativity, and also a way for me to tell a story from my own perspective, from a lens of perhaps a younger self. This is why I wrote this book. And it became a form of expression in a way because I could convey emotions. I could convey the feelings I had within me. Feelings that I can't often tell other people. These books allow me to do that in a way that when you read them, you kind of get into my mind, you get to see the way I think in a way. And that boils down to just the creative aspect of who I am. I love creating. I love creative writing. I love creating in all aspects and mediums that creation has to offer. This wasn't me trying to prove anything. I was simply just trying to understand myself, and to also, in the process of understanding myself, to share that with whoever gets to read my book. That was truly my motivating factor as to why I wrote it. Lost Brothers. This was my first published book. The reason I wrote this book actually goes back to when I think the Karate Kid, the one with Jaden Smith and Jackie Chan came out. I went to see that movie in theaters with one of my godmothers, and it was phenomenal. I enjoyed the movie. At that age, I was young. That night, I went home and I had a dream. And in that dream, it was me in a movie with my twin. And in that imagination, I saw me having a twin, and the drastic measures of the way our life were within that storyline. And I woke up such young age, and I woke up and I thought to myself, would it have been nice if I could actually have do a movie with Jackie Chan and Jaden Smith within. And for years I had stayed with this storyline. It never went away until one day, I was sitting in the place that I work, and something just hit me all of a sudden. And it was that storyline. And something in my mind was like, why not write it? Why don't you just write it? And then the time will come, if you ever have the opportunity to make it into a movie, that time is going to come, but just write it. And this was the catalyst for me. And I went home that night. I remember during that period, I spent countless of nights. I was staying up to I believe sometimes 4 a.m. And I'll go to work and I'm super tired. I can't do anything, but I still function. But it was a repetition until finally the book was done. And this book particularly taught me that if you have a vision, if you have a dream, just put it down in writing. Wherever you think is necessary for you to write those dreams down, just put it down. Because what happens is you never know tomorrow. I didn't write this book with hopes that, I will sell out a billion copies. I wrote the book simply because I had a vision. I had a dream. And from that dream and that vision, the book came to life. That was simply it. And because of this book, and I did the Chronicles of Love. I love poetry. I've always loved it since I was a kid. I don't remember a time where I never wanted to write. And fun fact, actually, I remember my childhood crush. When I wrote a poem for her, and I threw it across over the fence, and I remember getting beaten for that poem, and it's still a memory to me to this day because I can never forget it. And that incident, that part of my life, became something that stayed with me forever until in high school, when during my ESL class, we usually have several writing prompts and things of that nature. Writing haiku, Edgar Allan Poe, Othello. These books and those exercises kind of made me fall back in love with just writing. And I remember one day my teacher actually told me, I love the way you write. You're a really good storyteller. You're really good at writing poems. And that gave me a different perspective. It gave me a different fire within me. And I realized that this is something that was turned into bad when I was young. And now hearing someone tell me that it's a good thing to express yourself. It's very good to express yourself. And of course, I didn't write the book then. I didn't write any poem then, even after that point. Until I graduated, the book actually came alive when I was deployed in the military. I was in the Air Force. And during my deployment, I had all this, rush of inspirations, if you were to call it that. I had a lot of information just pouring in, and I didn't know where, like, how to like contain it. And I thought to myself, at that time, actually, I thought to myself, write it in my notebook. And that was the beginning. I started writing all the poems that came in through inspirations. I just started writing them into my notebook. I wasn't checking for grammar or errors or anything. That was after I finished writing. I wrote everything, all my inspirations, everything that came within myself. I poured it into my poetry book. And this became something completely new and different for me. The reason I say new and different was I could convey my feelings a lot more differently than I did in my fiction book, which is The Lost Brothers. When you read the Chronicles of Love, that is you actually going within my mind, the way I see the evolution of love from the beginning to the end, and then the reincarnation of it, if you were to use that. That was the catalyst for me. And I'm happy and I'm glad that I wrote it, because it allows me now to, like I mentioned earlier, challenging myself to get to the point where I am today. For me, what writing has taught me all these years was patience, being free to create, understanding myself, and also just being in the moment. I think oftentimes we are so distracted by everything going on in the world that we forget the gifts that we have. And the gifts that we have are the things that inspire other people to do the things that they do. If you never share your gifts, the truth of the matter is nobody will ever get to see them or even read about them for them to understand who you are and to also understand themselves. Writing this book is about finishing what I started. It's not about perfection. It's mainly about taking an idea, understanding what that idea is, and putting it out into the world, regardless of whether you get attraction or not. That is not the point. The point is putting your gift out there, because you never know. One day, somebody might pick up your work and say, oh, I actually enjoyed this person's thought process. But if you never do that, then you never get that feedback, right? So I think for me is doing it, starting it without, and finishing it without having to think about, is it perfect? Of course, you have tons of like research you have to do when it comes to like publishing and things of that nature. But it's understanding the concept of it in terms of being patient with the creative aspect of it. The discipline behind the writing, the discipline behind the waiting process, because it's not like, oh, you wrote a book and tomorrow you just publish it. But you have to go through the writing process, the editing, the proofreading process, all the whole circle of what it takes to publish a book. And for me, it is just taking the moment to take all of this in moment by moment, rather than trying to put it all out there. It's a process of just being there and enjoying what you're creating. Most people never finish what they started. And I think it's not doing a disservice to the world, rather it's doing a disservice to yourself. Because as a creator or someone with a creative mind, or even if you're in the business sector, doing something that challenges you to become a better version of yourself is 10 times better. Because, and I always enjoy this, because one of the things that I do actually is I evaluate myself and I see where are the areas that I can improve. And I challenge myself to do those things, hence why I'm also filming this documentary. And it also helps me in any endeavors that I find myself doing, because there's a lot of things that goes into the components of writing, and patience is one of them. If you don't have patience and a follow through, you're never gonna get anywhere. So writing for me was that catalyst to push me into my full, authentic, and creative mind, and also bringing alive my childhood, the younger version of myself, into the world. Because we often have dreams when we're young, but we forget to put those things into words or out there into the universe for other people to learn from, or perhaps grow from them. This became the evolution of who I am today. Something that I will carry well into every project that I find myself in. And I believe that finishing is a skill. If you're able to finish a project, if you're able to finish, whether you're doing painting, your business, your writing, if you're able to finish that, is a skill set. And not many people have this skill set. Oftentimes people start and they stop because they don't feel motivated, or they have this feeling of like, oh, I'm not good enough, or what I'm creating is not good enough. But the truth of the matter, there's 7 billion people in the world. One person is gonna fall in love with your creation, no matter how bad you think they are or how good they are, right? The point is finish what you started, and you're gonna see how well that has helped you become as a person. So my encouragement is just finish what you started. Looking back in all these years after writing these books, I don't think I would ever write them differently, because again, these books are inspirations. They come from one aspect of my life, and I think as we grow up, inspirations change. So I don't think I would ever say, yeah, I will rewrite them, because I think when I had those inspirations, those were the right moment. Although what I hope for is that I get to have another inspiration that motivates me to write something completely new, something that resonates with my current self, and perhaps whoever stumbles upon it and wants to read it. Do I believe in everything that I write? I would say yes. The reason I say I believe in them is because it's speaking from an inner version of me. And those versions of me are still alive to today, no matter if I'm aging and things of that nature, those versions of myself are still very, very well alive. So I do believe in them. They hold a certain truth to them. And my goal is to honor them and putting it out there in the world and not expecting much. I think it's just my creation, and bringing them alive means tremendously more to me than trying to, have a certain numbers attached to the things that I do. I think for me, it's just creating and bringing them alive. What would my younger self think? What would my younger self think of me now? What would my younger self think of where I am now? I think my younger self would be proud, I hope. And I think my younger self would be happy, especially given the fact that this is a dream of his, a dream of my younger self, and seeing that younger self aspiring for something greater than who he was before and bringing that to life, there's nothing quite fulfilling than that. And I'm very happy that I was able to fulfill that vision and the dream that my younger self had. So I say all of that to say that I hope that my younger self is proud of me, because I did this for him. And my goal is to continue to create and fulfill all the dreams that my younger self ever had. I'm grateful that I had the opportunity of writing them, because they fulfill a version of me that no longer exists in some ways and fashion. So in all of this, the books weren't proof that I had everything figured out. They were proof that I was willing to try. I was willing to begin. Looking back, those books represent a moment in my life that I couldn't fully appreciate until years later. They remind me that every chapter teaches you something. Next time, I'm talking about something that's been part of my life for the last 6 years, building Velion. I'll share what 40 product drops, countless mistakes, and what building a luxury at leisure brand has taught me, and part of that story that I don't usually talk about.